a presidential candidate from one of the main parties has spoken at the Libertarian National Convention, and President Trump has agreed to do just that this year. So this is a very historic night. This is a very anticipated night. And just to let you know that this crowd is very vocal about their beliefs and the policies that they stand for. And so that with that being said, President Trump is expected to come on this stage, and he will be met with all kinds of different personalities in the crowd. Now, not your usual MAGA supporters and MAGA enthusiasts who come to his rallies. This is a group of libertarians who want to put a candidate in office who aligns more with their beliefs. So we're hearing from the Trump campaign that President Trump will talk a lot about education reform and also being anti-war, and hopefully get the nod of these libertarians here at this convention, and also the 700,000 plus libertarian voters across America who are registered to vote for this upcoming election. The libertarians here want a voice in Washington. While they have over 120 elected offices across the country, they want a voice in Washington, maybe someone on President Trump's cabinet and his administration. They just want somebody that they can go to who fights for their beliefs. Now, the Libertarian Party and the conservative movement, the Republican Party, have a lot of similarities, but there are some differences as well, and that's why the two sides are different, is because there are some differences in their beliefs. So with that being said, it's going to be very interesting on this historic night, the first time we've seen this in 50 years of a president coming on, a former president that is, but a presidential candidate from one of the two major parties taking the stage at the Libertarian National Convention. In the front, you have a lot of libertarians. They rearranged some of the seating for this venue. A lot of the libertarians near the front are undecided how they will vote, so you'll see them really getting animated tonight. Toward the back, you will see voters from the Libertarian Party who have decided who they will vote. They will vote for President Trump. You see a lot of MAGA hats and MAGA attire toward the back of the room. And so, again, you're going to see a lot of back and forth tonight. You're going to see a lot of different personalities tonight. You're going to see some RFK Jr. supporters here tonight who I'm told may be here in protest. I'm looking as well across the room as we get closer to President Trump taking the stage, and I see security all around the room, even standing on chairs. So they have a good eye on this crowd. Of course, everyone goes through the typical security measures to come inside through the mags and Secret Service screening, but inside we have security standing on chairs so they can get an overview of the crowd from above. So they're on the ground and also standing on chairs, just to give you an idea of what security looks like, because this is going to be a very vocal night. Buckle up, because it's going to be a ride this evening, something we haven't seen, if ever, because when we usually go to a Trump rally or a Trump speech or a dinner where President Trump is speaking, you see a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservatives who want a change for the positive, someone who supports our Constitution, and someone who wants to raise your family in an America that your grandparents were raised in, someone who believes in our Declaration of Independence, our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, 14th Amendment. It goes on, just what our forefathers wanted for this country. Well, a lot of these libertarians want the same thing, but there are some differences, again, in beliefs. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for subscribing to the RSBN YouTube channel. Good to see you here with us on Right Side tonight on this Saturday evening on a holiday weekend. We appreciate you being here. I spoke about this earlier, and I'll speak about it again because I don't think they could ever get enough praise and thanks. We are in the backyard of Arlington National Cemetery, where those brave men and women are buried who died for us and our freedoms to live in this wonderful country. And so my thoughts and prayers are with all of the men and women, the family members who have lost loved ones in combat. And of course, thanks to the veterans who lost their lives defending our freedom. And visited Arlington National Cemetery many a times. And every time you go in, if you've never been, every time you step on the grounds there, the hair stands up on your arms and you can just feel it in your heart and your soul. The sorrow, the sadness, but also the gratitude for the brave men and women who are buried there. So think of them and all the families who mourn on this Memorial Weekend. We're going to continue to show you the crowds as we wait for President Trump. Should be any minute now as we pass the top of the hour. It's 8 o'clock Eastern here in Washington, D.C. President Trump should be here any moment now. And his team, his campaign, says he's ready.
We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. We were the template of liberty, proof that for a country to thrive, its people must be free. Free to speak, free to worship, free to build great companies, free to start small businesses. We were the freest country in the world, and by no coincidence, also the most prosperous.
This is a day of affirmation, a celebration of liberty. We stand here in the name of freedom. We are committed to peaceful and nonviolent change. We must recognize the full human equality of all of our people, not just to those of a particular religion, not just to those of a particular race, not just to the wealthy, but to all of the people. We must do it for the single and fundamental reason that it is the right thing to do.
A new twist this morning for the country's most famous political dynasty.
RFK Jr. planned
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who had for the presidential race in April, vowed that it's time to heal a divided nation and return the power to the people.
Robert Kennedy Jr.
We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. I have witnessed an upwelling of optimism that I've never seen before. Something is stirring in us that says it doesn't have to be this way. And so I've come here today to declare our independence from the tyranny of corruption, which robs us of affordable lives, our belief in the future, and our respect for each other. But to do that, I must first declare my own independence. Independence from the Democratic Party and from all other political parties. I haven't made this decision lightly. It's very painful for me to let go of the party of my uncles, my father, my grandfather, and both of my great-grandfathers. But my sacrifice is nothing compared to the risk our founding fathers took when they signed the Declaration of Independence 247 years ago. They knew that if their revolution failed, every last one of them would be hanged. They chose to place everything on the line. When John Adams put his pen down after adding his signature to the Declaration, he turned to those present and he said to them, sink or swim, live or die, survive or perish. From this day on, I am with my country. I'm going to make that same pledge to you today so that I can stand before you, as every leader should stand before you, free of partisan allegiance, free from the backroom deals, a servant only to my conscience, to my Creator, and to you. Every president enters office promising to unite the nation and to work with people from the other party across the aisle. None of them ever does it. They can't. They're already chosen a side. Well, I'm not going to have that problem. I'm going to build coalitions from both sides of the aisle. And except for the small minority of public officials who are actually corrupt, I'm going to tell you this secret. They too want liberation from the system that has captured them. And isn't that ultimately what we all want? Liberation from a system that robs us of our wealth, our health, our hope, our patriotism, our ideals, our freedoms, and ultimately our sense of ourselves as a good and capable people. Is healing our divided nation possible? Let's go take back our country. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I declare my independence.
I declare my independence.
I declare my independence.
We declare our independence.
I declare my independence.
We declare our independence.
I declare my independence.
We declare our independence.
I declare my independence.
I declare my independence.
Yo declaro mi independencia.
We declare our independence.
I declare my independence.
Few men are willing to brave the disapproval of their fellows, the censure of their colleagues, the wrath of their society. Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence. It is the one essential, vital quality for those who seek to change the world.
It's time for us to say enough is enough. We were once a free and thriving nation, the healthiest and strongest in the world. What we once were, we can be again. How do I know that? It's because everywhere I go in this country, I see a profound determination among Americans to heal. We might have become the sickest country on earth, but we also have the most ingenious healers, both inside and outside conventional medicine. We may have sky-high levels of depression and addiction, but we also have innovators who have opened up new frontiers in recovery. We have some of the world's most depleted agricultural soils, but also some of the world's most innovative and energetic regenerative farmers. We have serious economic problems, but we also have the brightest and most ambitious entrepreneurs. We face hunger and homelessness, and yet we meet it with the highest philanthropic rates in the world and bottomless kindness and compassion. We may be on the mat today, but we can be on our feet and happy and healthy and strong again with good leadership tomorrow. Our people and our system were built for resilience. And here's the most important thing I want to tell you about the state of our union. Our nation seems more divided than ever, but Americans everywhere want to heal that divide. Our nation has become artificially divided by political forces that can survive only when we, the people, are at war with each other. People are tired of being manipulated by fear. We learned that lesson during COVID. We recognize that the same techniques of manipulating fear are being used by elites today to corral us into voting for one political candidate or the other. Americans are tired of these dire warnings that to preserve democracy itself, you better vote for our guy. I can tell you that in every state of this union, people are rejecting fear-mongering. 80% of Americans say they don't want to be forced to choose in this election between the lesser of two evils. They're tired of voting against something or someone. I see it in the crowds of mixed Republicans and Democrats and independents who attend my rallies, that a growing number of Americans are rejecting divisiveness. They're ready to unite, to rebuild this country, and to fulfill the promise of the America of my youth. They're ready to vote for something and for someone they like, for someone who represents hope and healing, or someone with an inspiring vision for America's future, for a future that they can believe in. So that's the State of the Union that I want to bring you today. It's a nation that hungers to heal. It's a nation ready to face reality, to rebuild, to end the forever foreign wars, to clean out the corrupt Washington establishment, and to turn again toward peace, freedom, good health, and prosperity. When we unite in that vision, we're going to be unstoppable. Thank you, and God bless you.
All Americans. A lot of MAGA hats here tonight. Good to see. I noticed them as I was walking in this evening before we went live on air, and I just smiled because, again, if you listen to the mainstream media, there's going to be nothing but boos here tonight and hecklers here tonight and protests here tonight. But the truth is, when you get here, there's just as many Trump supporters who have already decided in the Libertarian Party that they're voting for Donald Trump. They're here tonight. They're wearing their gear. They're wearing their MAGA hats. That's the truth. You've seen it tonight. We've panned the crowd. You see it. And you hear them chanting, "We want Trump." Any minute now before President Trump takes the stage here at the Libertarian National Convention.
Former Trump policy aide Stephen Miller, also Trump campaign surrogate, dear friend. Steve, look, this is not personal. I mean, I know Robert Kennedy Jr., and he's a very gracious person, not personal. But on the issues, I want to begin with this. He has a long history of being a real climate extremist, it seems to me. And I think that's a big problem. And I think under the Biden administration, I don't know whether there's much difference between the two. We've seen how this has damaged the economy, oil prices, gasoline prices, business expenses. What do you make of all that?
Well, you're right. RFK Jr. is a climate extremist, has been for many years. His climate extremism is well documented and well known. He would shut down all fossil fuels. He would abolish drilling. And he would put significant taxes on carbon emissions that would crush the economy. I think what's significant, Larry, and what you're really talking about today is this. He is indeed a serious candidate. He's a serious candidate of the left. The American voters will go to the polls, and they'll be able to choose from two liberal Democrat politicians, RFK and Biden. Some Democrat voters might like RFK's climate extremism and vote for him. And so you have two extremely liberal candidates in Biden and RFK running. By the way, it's not just climate extremism. RFK has been very extreme on the Second Amendment in favor of gun confiscation. He's been very extreme in favor of socialist economic and tax and regulatory policies. He's been very extreme even recently, saying that he favors abortion up through the end of pregnancy in all 50 states. So again, a very, very far left position there. So on issue after issue, he staked out territory that puts him to the leftmost portion of the American electorate.
You know, I'm reading from Karl Rove's column on this. Karl's pretty tough on him. Again, this is not personal. He's a very gracious man. But Karl says Kennedy has a lot of other, quote unquote, moonbat ideas. Agribusiness is waging war on our health through the food pyramid. The 2004 election was stolen. The 2004 election was stolen. Wi-Fi and 5G cause cancer. Sirhan didn't kill RFK Sr. He also talks about reparations for Black descendants or cities. He doesn't mention any specific names. So again, these are pretty far out stuff. These are pretty far left. Actually, they're just fringe kinds of issues. Those don't really seem serious to me.
Well, another one that was not included on that list is his very, very strong sympathy for the Palestinians that support Hamas. So that's another issue where he fits in very well with the left flank of the Democrat Party. I think there's a lot of, for example, Arab voters in Michigan who don't like Biden and who will be voting for RFK. I think there's a lot of college students in places like New Hampshire who are very anti-Israel, who will be very comfortable voting for RFK. So there's a large portion of Biden's coalition that will actually be much more comfortable, whether it be on climate issues or foreign policy issues, voting for RFK. So this is squarely a problem as and more people become familiar with his record. And so there's a lot of it was in Mr. Rowe's column, a lot of what we discussed today. I think it's going to be a real scare for Democrats in November.
Yeah, I mean, the issue of reparations, you know, I mean, I've never understood how you get there. I mean, it was hundreds of years ago. Times have changed. It kind of we don't live in Jim Crow anymore. Joe Biden makes the same
reparations
case.
Is unpopular across the board.
I know.
As a policy matter.
I mean, you get Gavin Newsom in California talking about reparations. You're talking about hundreds of billions, maybe over trillions of dollars that nobody has. Doesn't make any sense to me. And again, he's a very nice fella. He's a very gracious man. I've known him for a long time. We had dinner together with a bunch of people maybe a month or two ago. But politically, you're right. He is a man of the left.
Fundamentally, he's a liberal, socialist, Democrat, and more people are becoming familiar with his record.
Thank you, Steve Miller. Appreciate it, buddy. See you soon.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
I'm skeptical of the Democratic Party. I'm skeptical of the historical establishment wing of the Republican Party. I know you all heard from RFK Jr. earlier today. And I'm just going to be calling it out like I see it across the board, 360 degrees here. I respect his commitment to medical freedom, something that many of you in this room share as well. I will first acknowledge that. Got to respect somebody who stands for actual medical freedom. But RFK Jr. is in no sense a libertarian in any meaningful sense of the word. I mean, the fact is, you cannot say you support free speech in this country if you also have, even in the past, advocating for imprisoning those who have spread climate disinformation. The Second Amendment is not a recommendation, it is a right. And I'm going to say this, call it like it is. I'm proud to be not only the only Republican candidate who came to PorcFest this year, but also to be the only presidential candidate of any party that did not require people to disabuse themselves of their Second Amendment rights in order to enter those grounds either. And I don't think that you're a libertarian if you behave like the other side. I'm glad he's skeptical of the government narrative on vaccines, but he's completely imbibing the government narrative on climate change. I'm glad that he supports actual medical independence, but the fact of the matter is somebody cannot oppose nuclear energy in this country and support an expansion of the regulatory state on grounds of environmentalism or consumer protection and in any way pose as a libertarian. It's just a fact of the matter. So I don't really bend the knee to one particular political party or another. Democrat Party, Republican Party. I respect some elements of what everybody has to say in respecting freedom, but RFK is in no sense a libertarian either.
Can you hear me? I'm very, very, very happy to be here today. I'm going to speak about the United States Constitution and particularly the Bill of Rights. A lot of people don't realize that the articles of the Constitution don't grant citizens any rights or freedoms whatsoever. That was a real problem to some of the founding fathers, particularly to George Mason. Mason wrote a pamphlet during the Constitutional Convention that opposed the new government. And that pamphlet was so convincing that the other framers of the Constitution felt that it was too much of a hazard and that the Constitution was in danger at that point of not being ratified. And that's when James Madison came to the rescue by drafting the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. Originally, Madison felt that the Bill of Rights were unnecessary because it was obvious to him that the government couldn't exert powers that the Constitution had not assigned to it. But as everybody in this hall knows, governments don't like to limit themselves. Instead, they're constantly moving to exert and appropriate new powers. But the Patriots in 1791 vividly remembered the British tyranny, and they knew that every power that a government takes, it will never voluntarily relinquish. And every power a government takes.
Despite the fact that you are right up there in all these polls, you have been turned down repeatedly for Secret Service protection. With your name and your family history, how and why are you being declined?
We're not really told details. We've made 3 separate requests. One of those requests came at a time when I had, when there were incidents, including a man who came to one of my speeches armed to the teeth and asked to see me in the green room. And that man is now at large on the street. My house has been invaded twice, and those people remain at large. There's over 33 presidential candidates who have been given Secret Service protection early. In other words, statutorily, they have to give it to me at 120 days. But my uncle received it 414 days from President Carter. They didn't like each other, but President Carter was a gentleman and was a responsible leader. And he made a decision that even though I don't like Ted Kennedy, even though he's running against me in my own party, it's not good for our country to weaponize the federal enforcement agencies and punish people who run against you by not giving them adequate protection. So it seems like the DNC is weaponizing all of these federal agencies, from the FEC to the Secret Service, every other 3-letter agency that you can imagine, for political reasons. And that's not good for our country. We're supposed to be the exemplary democracy in the world. We're not supposed to be a banana republic.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is slamming what he says is a heinous double standard after a congressional advisory panel voted yes to awarding GOP candidate Nikki Haley with Secret Service protection, but not RFK Jr. Kennedy wrote on X of this move, "While I'm happy she'll be protected and publicly supported her request, double standards abound. My campaign first requested Secret Service protection in May of 2023 with a 63-page declaration. We still have a current request pending." Kennedy continued, "My request is the first time in 55 years a candidate has ever been denied. The Biden administration is the sole outlier to turn down a request for Secret Service coverage." The process for getting Secret Service protection involves a panel of actually congressional leaders getting together and deciding whether to recommend this protection. And then the ultimate decision is made by Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who has denied it to RFK Jr. thus far. RFK Jr. did have an angry person with a gun interrupt one of his events. He's paying for his private security. But frankly, what's offered by the Secret Service is much more robust. I'm not really understanding the argument for not granting him protection, frankly, and the administration hasn't offered one for what it's worth.
I'm not sure the level of threats the Nikki Haley campaign is getting, but having an angry person come into your event with a gun sounds like one of the larger threats we've heard about in mainstream media that's been reported on, that's come out of the RFK Jr. campaign. In terms of like other presidents like Obama, Herman Cain, Trump getting Secret Service early, it makes sense that there are some cases where the threats are so big that the standard 120 days out from a general election for presidential and vice presidential candidates just doesn't apply, because, we'd rather keep those candidates safe. It's good for our democracy if our candidates can live on to election day. But in the case of Nikki Haley, I mean, her favorability rating is 33%. RFK Jr.'s is 52%. Do people hate her way more? We have no idea what threats she's getting and the level of those threats. How real are they? How close do they get to actually harming Nikki Haley? In the case of RFK Jr., it's possible he's receiving very serious threats or would be in more danger if he didn't have his own privately hired security. They could be acting as a deterrent. I think you're right that it just makes sense to grant the major candidates that are still in the race at this point access to Secret Service resources.
I can't understand why they wouldn't give that protection to RFK Jr. as well, given what he's experienced, given the Kennedy name. People, there could be crazy people out there who have an axe or a conspiratorial axe against the Kennedys for various reasons. There's obviously a history of political violence against members of his family, his father, his uncle, etc. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I can totally see people close to Biden, Mayorkas, people in the Department of Homeland Security totally hating the idea of an independent running a viable campaign in the United States. People in the establishment love the two-party system that we have, or the uniparty system, as some people would call it. But I think that it could very well be a political decision. Absolutely, let's drain some resources from the campaign. He can pay for it himself, and therefore he has less money to run advertisements against us and invest in having more staff and getting on the ballot in the states where he wants to be on the ballot. In the general, very well could be a political decision.
Yeah, it's hard not to reach that conclusion. If they want to disabuse us of it, tell us what's going on, or better yet, just give him the Secret Service protection. Seems like it would be a no-brainer at this point.
Folks, I've never seen this before. I spent 12 years in the Secret Service. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., running for president, RFK, tweeted this out the other day. It's a long tweet. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the gist of it is this. Nikki Haley was granted Secret Service protection, which is really strange because Bobby Kennedy, RFK, wasn't. And they still have a request pending. They were denied again. And the fact that RFK cannot get Secret Service protection, scroll down the tweet and people can read it if they want. And that Nikki Haley has Secret Service protection is ridiculous. He's actually polling ahead of Nikki Haley in some of these things. This is obscenely stupid. I don't mean ahead. I mean his chance of winning. Precision matters. He's not actually polling ahead. His chance of
Donald J. Trump.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Angela, for that introduction. And I am truly honored to be invited here tonight as the first president in American history to address the Libertarian National Convention. Great honor. A lot of people ask why I came to speak at this Libertarian Convention. And, you know, it's an interesting question, isn't it? But we're going to have a lot of fun. Well, in the last year, I've been indicted by the government on 91 different things. So if I wasn't a libertarian before, I sure as hell am a libertarian now. And unlike Joe Biden, I don't throw people in jail for disagreeing with me. I don't do that. I want to thank some people that have been really outstanding, and they are great libertarians and great people. Ambassador Rick Grinnell, Senator Mike Lee, Kash Patel, and Senate candidate who's going to win from Virginia, Hung Cao. I also want to pay our deepest respects to the two young missionaries from Missouri, Davy and Natalie Lloyd, that were viciously killed yesterday in Haiti. It was a horrible thing, and I just want to pay our respects to their families. They're great families, incredible people, and it's a very, very sad moment. What happened was so horrible. So to Davy and Natalie, please, thank you very much. I'd also like to express my gratitude to all the fierce champions of freedom in this room. You are champions of freedom. You are indeed. And I'm here to talk to you about the rise of left-wing fascism in the country and to need to defeat the corrupt and incompetent tyrant in the White House, crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States. He is the worst president by far in the history of the United States. In fact, I would say that Jimmy Carter is very happy tonight because he goes down as being a brilliant president by comparison. Everyone here tonight believes that we must fight for the same fundamental freedoms: freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of the right to own a firearm, and freedom over taxation. Oh, that was interesting. Then you're going to like me, firearm, you're going to like me. Nobody better than me. And we just got the full NRA, the strongest endorsement they've ever given the NRA. So that's good. Freedom from overregulation, freedom from government discrimination. And we believe that we do not have a free country if we do not have free speech, and very strongly believe that. We stand opposed to government tyranny in all of its many forms. We are opposed to a government that spies on political campaigns. I wonder who that might be. Like they did on me, spies on the American people, censors us, and crushes the rights of its own citizens, which the Biden administration does. We want government out of our business, out of our wallets, and out of our lives. That's what we want. We believe that Marxism is an evil doctrine straight from the ashes of hell. Having Marxism in our government is intolerable, and teaching it to our children is considered to us child abuse. We believe that the job of the United States military is not to wage endless regime change wars around the globe, senseless wars. The job of the United States military is to defend America from attack and invasion here at home. We believe that property rights are fundamental to a free society, and that Joe Biden's rampant inflation is a monstrous theft from the American people. It's a theft. We believe that the greatest threat to our country is not from enemies abroad. It's the tyrants, communists, fascists, and thugs attacking our rights and liberties from within. And above all else, we live by the words of the great American patriot, Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Our rights and freedoms have never been more in danger than they are right now. That is why I have come to extend a hand of friendship to ask for your partnership to defeat communism, defeat Marxism, and defeat crooked Joe Biden, who is destroying our country. He's destroying our country. We can be libertarian or anything else. This man is destroying our country. Thank you. And by the way, why isn't Joe Biden here speaking to you tonight? You know why? Why isn't he? Because he can't put two sentences together. That's why he's not here. The fact is, we should not be fighting each other. If Joe Biden gets back in, there will be no more liberty for anyone in our country. Combined with us in a partnership, we're asking that of the libertarians. We must work together. Combine with us. You have to combine with us. We cannot give crooked Joe Biden 4 more years. We cannot give crooked Joe Biden 4 more years. Today's radical left Democrat Party is not a Democrat Party of years ago, which still wanted big government, but at least believed in tolerance and free speech. Joe Biden's radical left Democrat Party is a fascist movement that wants to throw you in jail. If you post a meme they don't like, they want to throw you in jail if you do something that isn't quite to their liking. What you're witnessing under Biden is a toxic fusion of the Marxist left, the deep state, the military-industrial complex, the government security and surveillance services, and their partners all merging together into a hideous perversion of the American system. And that's exactly what it is. The fact is that Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. My mission is to liberate our nation from these fascist frauds and to rescue our democracy, to restore our republic, and to evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House so that America can be a free nation once again. He's the worst in history. The Biden regime censors its critics, spies on its opposition, takes away the bank accounts of U.S. citizens as an extra form of punishment, persecutes Christians and patriotic parents, and is currently trying to put the leading candidate for president in jail. That happens to be me. While imposing a strict gag order in order to keep me from talking about their crimes and their unconstitutional acts. They want to get rid of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, due process, the right to a fair trial, and the right to counsel, all the while pushing wealth confiscation and waging endless and unnecessary wars all over the globe. Anyone can talk about defending freedom, but I've actually put everything on the line to resist these despots and these stuff. And I stand before you tonight as your best hope of defeating the weaponized Biden and the very evil regime that his people, because it's probably not him because he doesn't know where the hell he is, but that his people are pursuing. You can make the difference. The Libertarian Party can make a big difference. The Libertarian Party can make a big difference. Together, we can make America freer than ever before for citizens of all backgrounds and all walks of life. We can unleash new hope, optimism, and energy. We can release limited government so that the people can have an unlimited future. United, we will be unstoppable. If we unite, we are unstoppable. I will be a true friend to libertarians in the White House. And I am proud to be the only president in 70 years who started no new wars. I took on the military-industrial complex. I broke the stranglehold on neocons and warmongers on the Republican Party. And instead of war, I made peace in the Middle East, something nobody thought was possible, and dealt with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, where a nuclear war was guaranteed to start in a very short period of time if Hillary Clinton became president. You know, that would have been a nuclear war, 100%. And you would have never had the October 7th attack in Israel, would have never happened. And the attack in Ukraine by Russia would never, ever have happened. Wouldn't have happened. Hundreds of thousands and even millions of people would be living today. I unbound the United States from globalist agreements that surrendered our sovereignty. I withdrew from the Paris Accord. I withdrew from the anti-gun UN arms treaty. And I withdrew from the corrupt and very expensive World Health Organization. Not a good thing. I passed the most significant, and this is so important, but I passed the most significant criminal justice reform in history. And perhaps my proudest accomplishment is to have exposed the depth of corruption in the Washington swamp. Thanks to me, the entire world knows that the deep state is real, and the lamestream media is fake. It's fake. A great libertarian who may very well be in the room right now, I believe, but he's a great libertarian, DeRoy Murdoch, who I've become friends with through his writings in the American Spectator and numerous other places, wrote an article yesterday in which he mentions just some of the things that make me a libertarian without even trying to be one. That's nice. DeRoy wrote, Donald J. Trump will address the Libertarian Party and its national convention on Saturday. The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for president of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, DeRoy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years. The reasons for doing so, policy and politics, are as solid as the Hope Diamond. DeRoy says this event is very unprecedented, he said. As the Cato Institute president, Peter Gotler, observed in Thursday's Washington Post, it will be the first time think of this, first time in U.S. history that a presidential candidate of a rival party will address the convention of a party that is presumably gathering to nominate its own candidate. Now I think you should nominate me or at least vote for me, and we should win together. You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. Because the libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will. And it's very important. Because we have to get rid of the worst president in history. And together we will. And without it, there's a risk that we could have 4 more years. We won't have a country left. So what is the purpose of the Libertarian Party getting 3%? What is the reason to take a chance of having this horrible president destroy our country, which he will do in far less than 4 years? It's not going to take 4 years. That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get your 3%, then meet again, get another 3%. No, you want to make yourself winners. It's time to be winners. You have a lot of common sense. It's time to be a winner. So I'm asking for the liberation. Well, think of it. I'm asking for the Libertarian Party's endorsement, or at least lots of your votes, lots and lots of Libertarian votes, based on my 4-year, very outstanding presidential record. Much of my record is Libertarian. As an example, D-Roy, thank you. Hey, where is D-Roy? Is he here? D-Roy, where are you? He's great. I like D-Roy. I've liked him for a long time, and he is a libertarian. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. D-Roy wrote, the $1.5 trillion Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was America's largest infusion of tax release. That's the largest tax relief ever. It sliced individual tax rates for all taxpayers and slashed corporate tax rates from a punishing 35% to a globally competitive, and much more than that, only 21%, way down. It was the largest tax cut in the history of our country. Now you can like it or you don't have to like it. Immediate expensing of business equipment and other reductions fueled the best economy that our country has ever had. For 4 years, we had the best economy our country has ever had. Black and Hispanic unemployment reached the best levels in history. Female joblessness slid to levels unseen before. Black poverty collapsed to record lows. And all of the things, income inequality shrank, and it shrank at levels we've never witnessed. Between 2016 and 2019, real median household income grew. These were the Trump years, 16.4%, the highest ever, to almost $10,000 per family. Think of that. Number two, Trump cut red tape as never before. He promised to kill 2 old regulations for every new one. And in fact, he ended up actually scrapping 8 for 1, and he was going to 12 to 1 and doing numbers that were unbelievable. Thank you, D-Roy. D-Roy is, and I'm actually just quoting from the article that came out today from D-Roy Murdoch. He said, number 3, Trump fully restrained inflation. We had practically none. Prices were rising just 1.4% as he left office. And this was a fraction of the 9% inflation that lying Joe Biden repeatedly claims Trump handed him. No, he said we handed him. No, it went up to 9% after he took over the White House and created all the inflationary acts. He did a horrible job. The 30-year mortgage rate, as Trump departed, was 2.77% versus the almost 9% today. And you, by the way, even if you pay 9%, you can't get any money. There's no money available. Trump's drill, baby, drill approach fostered energy independence, which we've never had before. Low fuel and electricity prices helped moderate inflation and propel economic growth. But all of these things have now skyrocketed. They have skyrocketed to levels never seen. Inflation has hit us harder than it's probably ever hit us before, and people are suffering because of it. Trump promoted parental rights and school choice. Trump's education department repealed the so-called guidance letter that turned on-campus sexual harassment accusations into de facto criminal convictions. You know all about that. Who else would do that for you? Trump restored due process to the he said, she said minefield for your children. I know many, many people, what they've gone through with that is they've gone through hell. In a powerful blow, Trump required universities to respect the First Amendment lest they lose their federal funds. I said, you don't respect the First Amendment, we're taking away all of your federal funding. Trump torpedoed Obamacare's individual mandate and got rid of many of its taxes. medical price transparency, empowered consumers to shop for healthcare services and compare costs. And this is one of the biggest things that's happened, and it's reducing the price of drugs and everything related to drugs and medical care at levels not seen before. This will soon be happening. The competition is now slowing what were ballooning healthcare expenses. Trump signed right to try. Terminally ill patients now can receive experimental and possibly life-saving treatments. And when at death's door, what do these suffering Americans have to lose? What do they have to lose, you ask? They are so thousands and thousands of people are now living because of right to try. Trump nominated some 300 constitutionalist federal judges, a record, including a seldom seen 3 Supreme Court justices in one presidential term. Very rarely seen before, if ever. Trump canceled and defunded federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and other state-funded racism schemes. The VA Mission Act, which Trump signed, lets military veterans receive federally funded medical care in the private sector if delays prevent their treatment in VA hospitals. In other words, if they're delayed, they can go out and get a private doctor. We pay the bill. They go out, they get a private doctor, they get better. People were waiting online for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, and not anymore. Trump signed a measure that streamlined dismissals of federal bureaucrats who abuse America's beloved veterans. He got NATO countries to pay hundreds of billions of dollars more for their protection. The only president who did so, and substantially reducing what we were forced to pay. We got them to pay, other nations to pay hundreds of billions of dollars that they weren't paying. No other president was able to do that, reducing very substantially what we paid. During the Trump administration, we had peace through strength, no wars other than the complete and total destruction of ISIS. And DeRoy ended by saying that most libertarians would say this is a non-exhaustive roster of accomplishments like no other, that it truly shines. So again, DeRoy, thank you very much. DeRoy Murdoch, I appreciate it. We could not have written that better. And as you say, there were many other things we did that were quite libertarian also. So I want to thank you very much. That was a great article. Thank you. DeRoy Murdoch, thank you. When I return to the White House, we will break the deep state grip on our democracy once and for all. I did far more than any other president in that regard. As an example, I inherited James Comey, a terrible, terrible person from the Obama administration. And very early on, I fired him and lots of others at the FBI, in addition to thousands and thousands of corrupt and unnecessary people throughout our government. And now we are going to finish the job. We will root out the sickness that has taken over our Justice Department, our FBI, and other agencies. Our goal will be nothing less than the rebirth of fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. Since the day he took office, Joe Biden has worked to persecute political dissidents, including conservatives, Catholics, and other Christians and opponents of his weaponized state. Right now, the Biden DOJ is trying to put Christians in prison for 11 years for the crime of singing hymns. The moment I win the election, I will appoint a special task force to rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who has been unjustly persecuted by the Biden administration, so that I can sign their pardons or commutations on day one. And I will ensure that libertarians are helping to lead that task force. You'll be on that task force, many of you. As everyone knows, it will be my great honor to pardon the peaceful January 6 protesters, or, as I often call them, the hostages. They're hostages. There has never been a group of people treated so harshly or unfairly in our country's history. This abuse will be rectified, and it will be rectified very quickly. And if you vote for me on day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, who was sentenced of time served. He's already served 11 years. We're going to get him home. We're going to get him home. I'm proud that I have put forward a detailed plan to smash the censorship and industrial complex and restore free speech. On day one, I will sign an executive order banning federal agencies from colluding to censor the lawful speech of American citizens. And we will remove the rogue bureaucrats who conspire to take away your First Amendment freedoms. We will do that quickly. I will once again slash a record number of liberty-destroying regulations. I will stop Joe Biden's plan for the largest tax. He is going to give you the largest tax increase in the history of our country. And I will end that. And I will make the Trump tax cuts the biggest in the history of our country. We will make them permanent tax cuts. We will also stop the massive Biden inflation tax, a stealth tax by which crooked Joe Biden is printing trillions and trillions of dollars and plundering it for the cronies and political friends that he's got all over Washington. And we will cancel the Green New Deal, which is the Green New Scam. It's a big scam. We will terminate Crooked Joe's insane electric vehicle mandate. And we're going to bring your energy costs down by 60 and 70% because we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We will eliminate illegal government discrimination and return to a society based on individual rights and individual merit. Thank you. And I will also stop Joe Biden's crusade to crush crypto. We're going to stop it. I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. I will also immediately end the humanitarian disaster on our southern border. We will end it quickly. You cannot have capitalism and also have open borders because you will soon be turned into a socialist nation, then a poor nation, and finally you will be a failed nation. By ending the border crisis, which we will do immediately, we will save freedom, prosperity, and capitalism in America. And before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled, so we quit spending hundreds of billions of dollars to fight other people's wars, and so that we start immediately saving thousands and thousands of lives. And I am committed to restoring peace and restoring stability and to stopping Joe Biden's march to World War III. You know you're being led right into World War III. You know that. You're going to have World War III, and it'll be a war like no other because of the weaponry, the massive weaponry. It will be a war like no other. We will stop it. and I'm the only one that's going to be able to stop it. I will protect American sovereignty from the creeping hands of global government. And as we speak, Joe Biden's minions are in Geneva, secretly negotiating to surrender more of our liberty to the World Health Organization. Drafts of the agreement show that they want to subjugate America to foreign nations, attack free speech, empower the World Health Organization to redistribute American resources. They're going to take our money and send it all over the world to other countries that we need for our own citizens in the event of a pandemic. And it can happen again. I am hereby demanding that Joe Biden submit these monstrosities to the Senate as treaties. They have to be submitted as treaties because he cannot be allowed to do that, destroy our country. He is. If he does not, I will rip them up and throw them out on day one of the Trump administration. On education, we will cut federal funding for any school pushing Marxist and communist race and gender theories on our children. We will keep men out of women's sports. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. We will shut down our out-of-control federal Department of Education and give it back to the states and local governments. I will return power to the states, local governments, and to the American people. I am a believer in the 10th Amendment. I will always defend religious liberty and the right to keep and bear arms. And I will secure our elections. So in conclusion, to every freedom lover here today, and there are a lot of them, and all across our land, I say, this is no ordinary election. Freedom itself is at stake. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. So if you want to strike a blow against the corrupt system in Washington, if you want to send a message to all of the people who want to take away your liberty, then right now in this election, we need your help. We need your support. When I'm in the White House, you will always find an open door to the Oval Office. Together, we are taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. But no matter how hateful or corrupt the communists and criminals we're fighting are, and they are vicious and they are corrupt, you must never forget, this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you, belongs to you. This is your home, this is your heritage, and our American liberty is your God-given right. 2024 is our final battle. With your help, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. And we will drain the swamp, and we will restore and rescue our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, the great liberation of America begins on November 5th, 2024. It will be the most important day in the history of our country, and the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. I want to thank you. I want your support. And again, you can either nominate us and put us in the position or give us your votes. I would say nominate or give us your votes, but we want libertarian votes because you stand for what we stand for, and don't waste a vote. And don't allow the worst president in the history of our country to come back and do the final destruction of America. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. God bless you.
agree on anything. They're less united than the people who identify as independent, laughing my ass off. Open border libertarians are living in a fantasy. Third world countries exist. Yeah, I don't know a lot about libertarians, but I'll just say if any libertarians believe in open borders, you're fucking retarded. Like, you are absolutely fucking retarded if you believe in open borders. That's just the bottom line. All right. You are